Twisted Metal 1 has a grounded style and features a roster of 13 vehicles and their drivers as they compete in the Vehicular Combat Tournament on the streets of LA. Twisted Metal 2 took a more cartooning approach to the style and added a few new drivers, gameplay features, and expanded the tournament to the entire planet. Twisted Metal 3 maintained the cartoony style and was the first game by a different developer who did their best with the series, but ultimately it fell flat for many players at the time. Twisted Metal 4 was the second game by developers 989 Studios and is considered a big improvement over TM3, but it strayed even further away from the style and gameplay of TM2. Twisted Metal Black completely changed the series, opting for a dark, grotesque, horror-inspired tone and world. It is often seen as the height of the series. Twisted Metal Small Brawl went in a completely opposite direction, instead giving players a more friendly and colorful presentation where every car is remote controlled and the contestants are kids. Twisted Metal Head On returned the series to the style and world of Twisted Metal 2, but for more modern systems at the time. Twisted Metal, released in 2012 for the PS3, was considered a reboot and matched the styles of TM2 and Black. In Twisted Metal 1, Minion is the final boss with no information other than that they had won the previous year's tournament. Minion is known as the XJ39 mine tank with access to every vehicle's special weapon. In Twisted Metal 2, it's revealed that Minion is a demon from hell blazing a warpath to get their powers back from Calypso, who stole them. Minion is the mid-boss of the game, driving the same XJ39 mine tank on the level Amazonia. In Twisted Metal 3, Minion is actually, I'll just read his bio from the game itself. Quote,
I may be nightmare material, but I dress a hell of a lot better than every other slouch in this tournament. My tank will flatten your sorry ass if you work with me, so stay out of my way. But if you can beat me, you can help me hunt down Calypso.
In the end, Minion is sent to Hell, Michigan instead of the hell that he wanted. In Twisted Metal 4, Minion returns, but in a completely different tank and no driver information. In Twisted Metal Black, Minion has arguably the most significant appearance yet. Driving a flame-throwing tanker, Minion is the mid-boss of the game and driven by Marcus Kane, the split personality of Sweet Tooth. Playing through the game as Minion reveals that the entire game takes place within the mind of Needles Kane. In Twisted Metal 1, Spectre is depicted as a white 1965 Corvette piloted by a literal ghost. In Twisted Metal 2, Spectre is still a 1960s Corvette, but it loses its tail fins while it gains a sleek blue stripe. It's driven by a man obsessed with fame. In Twisted Metal 3, Spectre gets its biggest change yet, this time taking the form of a blue 1996 Dodge Viper with a white stripe, and is once again controlled by a man who desperately wants to be famous. In Twisted Metal Black, Spectre returns to being a Corvette, but this time it's driven by a woman who is looking for hot singles in her area. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Spectre is an RC car that vaguely resembles the Mach 5 car from Speed Racer and is driven by a shy kid who wears a sheet. In Twisted Metal Head On, Spectre is back to being a white car with a blue stripe and has a spoiler depending on what version of the game you play. On the PSP it has a spoiler, on the PS2 it does not. It's piloted a third time by a man who just wants to be famous. In Twisted Metal 1, Roadkill is a gray junker slapped together with the discarded scraps of other cars. It vaguely resembles a 1976 Pontiac Le Mans and is driven by Captain Spears, a man who is desperate to undo a horrible mistake. In Twisted Metal 2, Roadkill remains a junker, but this time more closely depicts a 1970 Pontiac Firebird. It is both driven and lived in by Marcus Kane, a downtrodden man trying to wake up and break free from the world. In Twisted Metal 3, Roadkill maintains its junkyard origins, but likens itself more to a 1967 Camaro, and is driven by the same insane man Marcus Kane, but now he just wants to f*** off into the woods. In Twisted Metal Black, Roadkill is once again a junker, but painted green like an apocalyptic caramel apple, and introduces the new driver, John Doe, an amnesiac who only wants to remember who he is. In Twisted Metal Head On, Roadkill is, you guessed it, birthed from a junkyard, and is piloted by our old friend Marcus Kane, who still just wants to escape reality. In Twisted Metal 2012, Roadkill appears without a specific driver and is much less a product of salvaging pieces from a junkyard, this time looking like a 1969 Camaro more than anything. In Twisted Metal 2, Mr. Slam is the massive construction wheel loader driven by Simon Whittlebone, who wants to build a tower that is taller and more impressive than anything any human has ever created before. He was successful in building his tower, but in his hubris and paranoia, he ended up slipping and falling. In Twisted Metal 4, Mr. Slam returns as Super Slam, a boss vehicle that battles alongside Super Auger on the oil rig. It's unknown who the driver of Super Slam is, but given his demise in Twisted Metal 2, it's unlikely to be Simon Whittlebone. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Mr. Slam is just Slam, an RC construction car driven by a kid who is described as the oldest and biggest in the tournament, who wants to get revenge on Calypso for destroying his treehouse. He does so by using the real Mr. Slam to bury Calypso under a pile of dirt and dropping a porta potty on his head. In Twisted Metal Head On, Mr. Slam is back as a construction wheel loader, driven this time by the ghost of Simon Whittlebone. Simon is entering the Twisted Metal competition to be reborn so that he can finish his tower.
In Twisted Metal 1, Hammerhead is a stolen green monster truck piloted by two high school dropouts named Dave and Mike, who just want new treads for their massive truck. In Twisted Metal 2, Hammerhead is a black monster truck with flaming skulls airbrushed on the side and hood. Still driven by Mike, but Dave is replaced by Stu, and the new duo want the ability to fly. In Twisted Metal 3, Hammerhead is a red monster truck driven by Florida woman Granny Dread, whose motivation for entering Twisted Metal are to destroy the world so that she has less distraction while she watches television. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Hammerhead is an RC monster truck controlled by a kid named Hammerhead, who dreams of one day being a rock star. In Twisted Metal Head On, Hammerhead is a blue monster truck commanded by Catfish, a man who prides himself on his ability as a hunter, but wants to mount a new trophy on his wall. Calypso. In Twisted Metal 2012, Hammerhead appears as the red monster truck in the Brothers Grimm boss battle. It's driven by Mr. Grimm's faction as the last obstacle standing between Sweet Tooth and his prize.
In Twisted Metal 1, Crimson Fury is a sleek red Italian sports car that vaguely resembles a 1993 Lamborghini Diablo. Considered the fastest vehicle in the contest, it also features a powerful special weapon in the form of the Crimson Blade. It's driven by Agent Stone, a man hired by an underground freedom organization to win the Twisted Metal tournament and claim his prize. He wants a black box from a downed aircraft that could possibly contain evidence of alien life. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Crimson Fury is a red RC car that looks like a 1973 Lancia Stratos. Its speed and handling are top tier, much like every version of Crimson Fury. It's controlled by Agent Stone once again, but this time he's a kid who's doing a James Bond impression and wants to take down Calypso. In Twisted Metal Head On, Crimson Fury returns as a sleek red Italian sports car, but its model depends on which version you play. On the PSP, it's closer to a 2002 Ferrari Enzo, while on the PS2, it's a 1996 Lamborghini Diablo. It's piloted by Agent Shepard, a dedicated FBI agent who entered the tournament under a fake name in order to win and bring down Calypso. In Twisted Metal 2012, Crimson Fury appears as a Ferrari Enzo, but has no specific driver.
Krista Sparks is the driver of Grasshopper and is the long-deceased daughter of Calypso. She is brought back from the afterlife temporarily by Calypso, but the only way for her to truly regain her life is to win Twisted Metal and wish for it. However, when she does win, it comes at the realization that Calypso may have been just using his own daughter to further his destructive goals. Because the Twisted Metal tournament is designed to funnel the souls of the world's most talented drivers into hell so the devil can use them for his own underworld demolition derbies. Calypso's just the talent agent. Krista struggles with her role in Calypso's game. So instead of wishing for her life back, she demands that the car accident that took her life along with her mother and father never happened. But doing so would mean Calypso never died and made a deal with the devil to get his powers. So to avoid a time paradox, Calypso grants the wish by altering the events of the car accident so that Krista never perished, but was instead placed into a coma where she can dream about all the good times she could have had with her father before he decided to remove himself from the life he knew to become the demon at the head of the Twisted Metal tournament. In Twisted Metal 1, Calypso is a slumlord operating out of a dingy underground LA parking structure. He sits on a throne of wrecked cars flanked on either side by bikini-clad women and shirtless men. He has a burnt face and long curly hair. In Twisted Metal 2, Calypso returns in comic book form and has upgraded his HQ from a parking garage to a massive blimp that patrols the skies of LA. His hair is sleeker, but his face remains burnt. In Twisted Metal 3, Calypso shows up this time in full 3D and looks way more terrifying than anything that ever appeared in Twisted Metal Black. In Twisted Metal 4, Calypso is a playable character for the first time as Sweet Tooth has taken over the contest, leaving Calypso no choice but to compete to take it back. In Twisted Metal Black, Calypso is a mysterious bald dude with a damaged eye. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Calypso is now known as Billy Calypso, a schoolyard bully pitting the neighborhood kids against each other. In Twisted Metal Head On, Calypso is a sort of mix between all of his previous versions. His hair is long but bald on top, his eye is damaged, and it seems he operates out of an undisclosed compound surrounded by bikini-clad women and shirtless men. In Twisted Metal 2012, Calypso is the head of a Fortune 500 corporation by day and mysterious proprietor of a demonic vehicular mayhem contest by night. In Twisted Metal 2, Axel is a shirtless man wearing nothing but a pair of giant wheels and jeans. Axel here is just looking for the strength to confront the man who condemned him to life on the wheels, his father. In Twisted Metal 3, Axel returns and remains shirtless. His jeans have held up admirably well in the years between games, and despite having torn himself free from the wheels, he steps back into them. In Twisted Metal 4, Axel gets an upgrade to Super Axel and appears as the boss battle of Amazonia 3000 BC, and features an all-new metallic armor design with spikes on either side. In Twisted Metal Black, Axel has built the two-wheel machine as a way to pay a perceived penance for having let his wife be taken from him by Sweet Tooth, and this time he swapped his pair of jeans for some shorts. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Axel is a two-wheeled RC car piloted by a kid with the only censored ending in the entire game. In Twisted Metal Head On, Axel found that while he was free from his father, he was unable to live without the wheels, so he hires a scientist to attach cybernetic arms and legs to him so that he may enter the contraption once again. In Twisted Metal 2012, Axel appears in vehicle only as drivers are no longer tied to specific cars in this game. In Twisted Metal 1, Darkseid is the iconic and massive black semi-truck. It's driven by Mr. Ash, who is the literal devil on a warpath to get his prized demon Black back from Calypso. In Twisted Metal 3, Darkseid returns, but is not playable. The driver is Mr. Ash once again, but not much is known about him in this game. In Twisted Metal Black, Darkseid is once again a black semi-truck. It's piloted by Dollface. Dollface is on her journey to remove the mask from her face, but in the end realizes that what she really wants is revenge on the man who put her in it. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Darkseid is a blue RC semi-truck controlled by Jimmy Ash, a younger version of Mr. Ash whose motives remain unknown. In Twisted Metal 2012, Darkseid is still a massive black semi-truck with Dollface as a returning driver, who is a supermodel who had the mask placed on her and promised that it can remove a scar she got from a car accident. But when she went back to the doctor to have it taken off, he was gone. So her goal was to get rid of the mask, but ultimately she decides that she wants to be the biggest supermodel on the biggest runway, which is revealed to be an airport runway where she is hit by a landing plane.
In Twisted Metal 1, Thumper is depicted as a hot pink 63 Impala with a flamethrower. It's described as the lowest of the lowriders and is driven by Bruce Cochrane, a man who wants to end violence in his hometown. In Twisted Metal 2, Thumper remains a hot pink Impala with a flamethrower, but now features a brand new white roof. Bruce Cochrane is still a driver, only this time he wants to take over the world. In Twisted Metal 3, Thumper becomes slightly less hot pink, though still an Impala, and its flamethrower is replaced with a sonic blast contraption, and its white roof replaced with a black one. Bruce Cochrane maintains his control of Thumper and just wants to hang out with his friends. In Twisted Metal 4, Thumper makes its first and only appearance as a boss vehicle, now a Cadillac and called Super Thumper. It also gained an extra flamethrower. While its driver is not explicitly named, it's assumed that it's still Bruce. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Thumper is a pink RC car with two drivers, Vinny and Bruce, who are in search of the baddest sound system. In Twisted Metal Head On, Thumper appears as a hot pink Pontiac Bonneville with a flamethrower and is piloted by a woman named Angel, who desperately wants a car that will put all others to whimpering shame.
In Twisted Metal 1, Warthog is a green military Humvee that's slow as hell with a ton of armor, driven by Commander Mason to retrieve a black box that can point to alien life. In Twisted Metal 2, Warthog is once again a military Humvee but with a slightly more brown color and AWOL written across the back. It's driven by Captain Rogers, a soldier who's 105 years old and wants his youth back. In Twisted Metal 3, Warthog is again a Humvee driven by Captain Rogers, who wants the head to match his new 20-year-old body. In Twisted Metal 4, Warthog is changed to General Warthog, a World War I style tank commanded by General Warthog, whose wish is to control an army with no equal or weakness. In Twisted Metal Black, Warthog changes drastically to become a civilian station wagon strapped atop tank treads and driven by Cage, a man who wants to rival Sweet Tooth. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Warthog is a military-themed RC buggy controlled by Warthog, kid who's tired of getting picked on by Calypso. In Twisted Metal Head On, Warthog is back to a Humvee, but now piloted by a new driver, Colonel Hall, who wants a weapon that can eradicate all evildoers in the world. In Twisted Metal 2012, Warthog returns as a station wagon on tank treads and is the hardest vehicle to unlock, requiring players to complete the game on the hardest difficulty while achieving gold medals on every level. In Twisted Metal 1, the fastest car is Crimson Fury, the sleek red exotic sports car driven by the mysterious Agent Stone, who wants to retrieve a black box that could contain evidence of alien life. In Twisted Metal 2, the fastest car is Twister, the Formula 1 racer driven by Amanda Watts, whose wish is to go faster than anyone ever has before. In Twisted Metal 3, the fastest car is Spectre, the blue Dodge Viper commanded by Lance Wilder, a man obsessed with fame. In Twisted Metal 4, the fastest car is Orbital, a silver McLaren F1 piloted by Orbital, a secret agent with half a face. In Twisted Metal Black, the speediest boy is Mr. Grimm, an armored motorcycle with Mr. Grimm in its saddle, a broken man seeking revenge on the one who turned him into a monster. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, the fastest car is once again Crimson Fury, a sleek red RC car controlled by Kid James Bond. In Twisted Metal Head On, the fastest car is back to Twister, the Formula 1 racer, but this time driven by the sister of Amanda Watts, Miranda, who wants answers about what happened to her sister. In Twisted Metal 2012, the fastest car is no surprise Crimson Fury again. In Twisted Metal 1, Sweet Tooth is an escaped mental patient in a cheap clown costume. He is in search for his best friend, Crazy Harold, the wacky lunch sack. In Twisted Metal 2, Sweet Tooth is once again an escaped mental patient, but now sports his iconic flaming head. He wants to be turned into a bug. In Twisted Metal 3, Sweet Tooth returns. His hair is just orange instead of actual flames, and his wish is to have more ice cream to eat. In Twisted Metal 4, Sweet Tooth has taken over Twisted Metal. The circus style is still prominent in his design, but his hair is back to being literal fire. In Twisted Metal Black, Sweet Tooth takes on his most iconic version, a dark, twisted serial killer whose spree of murders led to his capture and attempted execution, where he was cursed by the preacher to wear the head of flames. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Sweet Tooth is the youngest and most mischievous contestant in the contest, and only wants a little ice cream. In Twisted Metal Head-On, Sweet Tooth retains his design from Black, if not more cartoony and whimsical. He is the split personality of Roadkill driver Marcus Kane. In Twisted Metal 2012, we see more of the origin story of how Marcus Kane, a simple ice cream truck driver, becomes the horrific monster of Sweet Tooth.
In Twisted Metal 2, the mid-boss is Minion, a literal demon who rises out of the lava swamp of Amazonia with his mind-powered tank. In Twisted Metal 3, the mid-boss is once again Minion, the same literal demon from hell, who greets the player in London with his mind-powered tank. In Twisted Metal 4, every level is punctuated by a boss fight, so I'll just choose the one that's closest to the middle of the game, which is RC Car, which is this fucking thing that pops out at the end of the bedroom level. In Twisted Metal Black, the mid-boss is back to Minion, but this time it's a fuel tanker with a massive force field driven by Marcus Kane, the other half of the split personality of Sweet Tooth. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, the mid-boss is Trapper, the most heavily armored RC car you've ever seen. Its driver is unknown, but it's a replacement for Minion because the developers thought a demon was probably too mature for younger audiences. In Twisted Metal Head-On, the mid-boss is Cousin Eddie, a man who forced a bunch of drifters to join his cult through brute force, and built a magic RV from scratch. He's not a contestant, he kinda just showed up one day. In Twisted Metal 2012, the mid-boss is Iron Maiden, a giant flying robot created in the likeness of Dollface by her devout followers. In Twisted Metal 1, the final boss is Minion, a military battle tank driven by a demon from hell. In Twisted Metal 2, the final boss is Darktooth, a massive black ice cream truck with pink polka dots piloted by Charlie Kane, Sweet Tooth's father. In Twisted Metal 3, the final boss is Primeval, the mightiest of Calypso's demons who drives like a moon buggy or something. It's unclear what the hell this thing is, but it can use every special in the game. In Twisted Metal 4, the final boss is Sweet Tooth, who at this point has taken over Twisted Metal and for some reason wants you to destroy him as part of the tournament. In Twisted Metal Black, the final boss is Warhawk, a helicopter with a force field. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, the final boss is Piecemeal, who is an amalgamation of every other car in the game assembled into one unholy beast, capable of using every special in the game. In Twisted Metal Head-On, the final bosses are Darktooth and Towertooth, piloted together by Needles and Marcus Kane, for some reason. In Twisted Metal 2012, the final boss is Sweet Tooth's Carnival of Carnage, a ridiculous behemoth built by devout followers of Sweet Tooth to honor him. It crawls across a desert in search of their clown leader. In Twisted Metal 2, Marcus Kane is the driver of Roadkill, the orange boomerang slinging coupe that doubles as Marcus's home. Roadkill is depicted as a homeless man who sees through the reality that he is in a video game. In Twisted Metal 3, Marcus Kane is once again the driver of Roadkill, the same chunker slapped together from discarded car parts. Only now it's gray and its special weapon is a weird arcing spike weapon. Marcus shows up as another homeless man, but instead of poking holes in his false reality, he just wants to fuck off into the woods. In Twisted Metal Black, Marcus Kane is the driver of Minion, the massive tanker truck and mid-boss of the game. It is through playing as Minion that it's revealed by way of a series of coded messages that the game takes place within the mind of Sweet Tooth. In Twisted Metal Head-On, Marcus Kane is back to being the driver of Roadkill, but also pilots Darktooth and Towertooth alongside Sweet Tooth. Marcus's ending in this game is the first time it is explicitly shown that Marcus and Needles are the same person, just split personalities. In Twisted Metal 2012, Marcus Kane is not shown as the driver of anything, and only appears during the origin of Sweet Tooth as Needles takes the form of the iconic clown demon. In Twisted Metal 1, Outlaw is a police cruiser driven by Sergeant Carl Roberts of the LAPD, who, like Sony apparently, wants to live in a world without Twisted Metal, so he gets shot into outer space. In Twisted Metal 2, Outlaw is replaced by Outlaw 2, another police cruiser, this time driven by Captain Jamie Roberts, the sister of Carl Roberts. Jamie is attempting to rescue her brother from outer space. In Twisted Metal 3, Outlaw returns with the sibling duo reunited, with the goal of ridding the world of all crime. In Twisted Metal Black, Outlaw receives its biggest change yet, now a police SWAT SUV driven by Agent Stone. Agent Stone is a man who is desperately trying to undo a horrible mistake he made while on duty. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Outlaw is a police-themed RC car controlled by Officer Roberts, who wants justice for the neighborhood kids. In Twisted Metal Head-On, Outlaw is back in what is considered the true canon continuation of Twisted Metal 2. Jamie and Carl Buzz Roberts join together to take down Calypso once and for all. In Twisted Metal 2012, Outlaw is back to the SWAT SUV design, but this time without a specific driver. In Twisted Metal 1, the best level is Cyberbia, the arena that best embodies a core tenet of Twisted Metal level design, which is destroy the familiar in your own backyard. In Twisted Metal 2, the best level is Paris, which features one of the most iconic moments in Twisted Metal history with the tearing down of the Eiffel Tower. In Twisted Metal 3, the best level is London, another fantastic urban environment that is a blast to do battle in. In Twisted Metal 4, the best level is Neon City, which is the only one I would consider playing on Twisted Metal 4 right this second. In Twisted Metal Black, the best level is Suburbs. The amount of small details and things
wants to explore is unmatched. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, the best level is, I don't know, Treetop Rumble. I haven't actually played enough of this game to have any levels stand out as the best or worst, but Treetop Rumble is kind of cool. In Twisted Metal Head-On, the best level is Russia. This map is a treat to drive around in and discover all it has to offer, a ton of destructibles and hidden areas to uncover. In Twisted Metal 2012, the best level is Diesel City, which is a massive arena that features a huge variety of places to battle in, from tight urban streets to wide open freeways, even to a close quarters junkyard area.
In Twisted Metal 1, the best place to fall off the map is on Rooftop Combat, where players can send their vehicles careening towards the streets below from atop the tallest skyscrapers in LA. In Twisted Metal 2, the best place to fall is on New York, the Big Leap, where once again the tallest skyscrapers around provide a great opportunity to rain yourself down like a metal meteor shower, but with the added bonus of a secret code to unlock Sweet Tooth. In Twisted Metal 3, the best place to fall is in Calypso's Blimp Hole. In Twisted Metal 4, the best place to fall is on the oil rig, where players can cast themselves to sea. In Twisted Metal Black, the best place to fall is yet another rooftops level with abandoned skyscrapers, but this does give players the chance of unlocking the sewers level if they fall at just the right spot. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, the best place to fall is on Treetop Rumble, where jumping off could mean bouncing back up off the trampoline. In Twisted Metal Head-On, the best place to fall is on Tokyo Rooftops, which is really just your standard run-of-the-mill rooftops level. In Twisted Metal 2012, the best place to fall is creatively on the map Metro Square, where Sweetbot can drop an elbow from the top rope and go directly into the sea. In Twisted Metal 1, Calypso has his teddy bear taken by Darkseid Strifer, is held at gunpoint by a woman that was tied up in Sweet Tooth's truck, has his soul snatched by Grim, and fired upon by Pit Viper's driver, who was hired by the people of LA to stop him. In Twisted Metal 2, Calypso is whisked away on a magic carpet ride by the souls of the victims of his tournament, blown up by his robo-daughter, and dragged to hell by Minion. In Twisted Metal 3, the devs did more damage to Calypso with these cutscenes than any Twisted Metal contestant ever could. In Twisted Metal 4, in a very special episode of Undercover Boss, Calypso is forced by Sweet Tooth to compete in his own tournament. In Twisted Metal Black, Calypso is sent to the Shadow Realm with a sore throat by Sweet Tooth. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Billy Calypso is eaten by a frog, wears a porta potty as a hat, gets strapped to the front of an ice cream truck, and is mauled by a house cat by the contestants of Twisted Metal. In Twisted Metal Head-On, Calypso is arrested by Crimson Fury's driver, gets clobbered by Lenny from Of Mice and Men, and does a cursed Freaky Friday bit with Sweet Tooth. In Twisted Metal 2012, Calypso gets through unscathed. Please let me know in the comments below if there's any endings that I missed that screwed over Calypso, and be sure to tell me your favorite time that Calypso got his. In Twisted Metal 1, the worst level is Arena Duel, which is just a dinky little warehouse where you battle one opponent. In Twisted Metal 2, the worst level is Holland, which is a small open field where the only cover is a couple of windmills that get blown up almost immediately. In Twisted Metal 3, the worst level is Egypt, which has a boring, repetitive color scheme and way too many hills to do car battle. In Twisted Metal 4, the worst level is Minion's Maze, which is a labyrinth so complex and sprawling that no mere mortal could ever possibly chart its steps without going insane. In Twisted Metal Black, the worst level is Drive-In Theater, which is by far the smallest and least forgiving map in the entire game. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, the worst level is, I don't know, Easy Death Oven for its depiction of plumber's crack. In Twisted Metal Head-On, the worst level is Tokyo Rooftops, which feels more like an obligation to a series tradition than an actual level. In Twisted Metal 2012, the worst level is Black Rock Stadium, which is too busy and hard to navigate. There's no flow and it's uninteresting to look at.
Spectre. A man wants the world to know his face, so his face is made the size of the world. Outlaw. A sister outsmarts a trickster god to find her brother, Minion. A demon from hell comes to Earth to bring Calypso back with them. Mr. Slam. A man wants to make his mark on the world, but instead just makes a mark on the world. Sweet Tooth. An insane clown murderer wants to become a bug. Thumper. A man wishes to rule over it all, but there's nothing left to rule. Warthog. A man wants a younger body, should have asked for that head to match. Twister. A woman wants to break the light speed barrier and ends up back in time and crushed by a dinosaur. Mr. Grimm. The Grim Reaper's hunger for souls outweighs what the world can provide. Hammerhead. Two fools want to fly, but find out too late that all they got was 2 plane tickets. Grasshopper. A teenage girl rebuilt to get close enough to her father to take him out. Shadow. A man hired by lost and wayward souls to get their vengeance. Roadkill. A man who sees through reality and just wants to leave the false world behind. Axel. Whose freedom lies in finding the strength to face the monster who condemned him. Axel, the man who spent the previous game freeing himself from his machine, asks to be turned into one giant machine. Sweet Tooth, an insane clown just wants ice cream. Thumper, a man wants to chill with his homie, but ends up as a pretty tasteless joke. Firestarter, a man wants to barbecue with his friends, ends up as the main course. Augur, A man wants people to see his inner child and is transformed into a literal child. Club Kid. A man wants to party all night long, gets stuck with the eternally turned endless nights of Alaska. Hammerhead. An elderly woman wants everyone to shut the fuck up so she can watch TV. Gets Clockwork Oranged. Roadkill. A man wants to fuck off into the woods but is sent to a mental hospital of a similar name. Warthog. A man follows up his wish for a younger body with the head to match. Flower Power. A woman wants to turn the world into flowers, gets eaten by the Little Shop of Horrors plant. Outlaw. A police duo asked to rid the world of crime, but it removes the need for cops too. Spectre. A man wants to be on TV and gets literally put inside of a TV. Mr. Grimm. The Grim Reaper is on the hunt for Calypso's soul, but gets his soul instead. Minion. A demon wants to return to hell, but is sent to Hell, Michigan. Goggle Eyes. A man who can't stand bugs finds himself lying down for them. Trash Man. Store brand Daddy DeVito wants a world of trash. Pizza Boy. Store brand M&M gets a ride so souped up it achieves spaceflight. Drag Queen. I'm not sure what's happening here. Rob Zombie. The literal Rob Zombie wants to play a little show for us. General Warthog. A man wants to lead an army with no equal and is sent to a sandbox. Orbital. A secret agent with half a face wants to not be the only one like that anymore. Quattro. Store brand Robocop surrounds Sweet Tooth with the space FBI. Microblast. A leprechaun wants to be big and gets turned into a giant statue or something. Captain Grimm. A skeleton pirate and his parrot challenge a clown to a sword fight and lose. Calypso. Calypso tries to get his ring of power back and fails. The Joneses. The store brand family from Christmas Vacation gets a new RV with Sweet Tooth as their driver, who proceeds to drive them off a cliff. Meter Maid. Store brand Bunny from Zootopia makes Sweet Tooth attend driving school. Manslaughter. A gimp suit demon gets tricked by Calypso. Warthog. A man undergoes brain surgery to stop being sad. Axel. A man gets revenge on the clown that ended his wife, but realizes it doesn't take the pain away. Yellow Jacket. A kid controlling a zombie dad with a remote is instead tasked with taking over Twisted Metal. Junkyard Dog. A man gets revenge on the pilot that disfigured his face and banged his wife. Roadkill. A man remembers who he is, but who he is someone Calypso doesn't want around. Sweet Tooth. A clown is given the choice to end the curse of his flaming head, but only if he stops killing, so he keeps his flaming head. Spectre. A woman is given her one true love, but it turns out her one true love is killing. Brimstone. A preacher finds out the horrible acts he committed were not the result of demonic possession, but were instead just his own doing. Shadow. A teenage girl gets revenge on the bullies who took her best friend using voodoo dolls. Outlaw. A police officer goes back in time to right a wrong that he did, but it comes at the cost of his own life. Darkside. A woman gets revenge on the man who locked her in her mask, along with the key, but chooses to keep on the mask. Crazy 8. A former boxer gets revenge on the doctor who ruined his face. Mr. Grimm. A Vietnam vet gets revenge on the man who turned him into a monster.
ATV. Boomhauer on an ATV wants to be wanted. Axel. A man between two massive wheels finds himself wishing for just pizza. Cousin Eddie. Big Boy wants a new RV. Hammerhead. A man wants to 1v1 Calypso, quick scopes only. Twister. A woman wants her sister back. Outlaw. A sibling duo can't make up their mind on a wish. Thumper. Knockoff Paris Hilton gets a ride that bangs so hard that even buildings roll over and submit to her dominance. Warthog. Military man wants to rid the world of evil. Crimson Fury. FBI agent gets the best of Calypso and ends Twisted Metal. Mr. Slam. The ghost of an arrogant man protecting his life's work is reborn as a child. Spectre. Classic monkey paw twist. Sees a man obsessed with fortune get crushed by a pile of money. Roadkill. A man wants to escape the nightmare of Twisted Metal. Mr. Grimm. The literal Grim Reaper wants to be human again and is immediately hit by a truck. Sweet Tooth. Iconic psycho clown switches places with Calypso. Shadow. Undead man just wants to go back to sleep. Darktooth. Marcus Kane and the iconic psycho clown living in his head finally have a talk. Grasshopper. The ghost of Calypso's daughter wishes that the car accident that killed her and her family never happened. In Twisted Metal 1, Sweet Tooth reunites with his best friend and dearest companion in this cold, bitter world, Crazy Harold, the wacky lunch sack. How many friends do you have that would compete in a vehicular murder contest just to see you again? In Twisted Metal 2, Krista Sparks and her father Calypso meet for the first time since he plunged their car into a brick wall, killing them both. They share one final embrace as they accept the fate of the flames, just happy they can comfort one another. In Twisted Metal 3, I guess Augur gets barbecued, which is a different kind of heartwarming. In Twisted Metal 4, Danny DeVito is placed in the world of his dreams, a world of garbage. In Twisted Metal Black, a young woman faces the man responsible for the horrors that she has endured and gets her revenge. In Twisted Metal Small Brawl, a young boy wants answers about his father and is given a picture of him and the key to the real full-size Spectre. In Twisted Metal Head On, a restless undead man is tucked in and read a bedtime story by Calypso so that he can go back to sleep. In Twisted Metal 2012, a man whose life was changed for the worse after the death of their father goes back in time to stop that from happening. It doesn't go well because every character in this game is screwed over. Welcome to the Twisted Metal Decidue Q&A. I asked my viewers to send questions about Twisted Metal, or really anything else, and now I'll do my best to answer them. The first question comes from Giuseppe170. Did Manslaughter's ending have any significance or any clarification on who he is? Well, Black, the People's Champion, a Gimp-suit demon of Twisted Metal Black, was actually first introduced in Twisted Metal 1, where he is shown to be the creation of Mr. Ash, the driver of Darkseid, and also Satan in the Twisted Metal universe. Black is retrieved by Mr. Ash in his ending to the displeasure of Calypso, who kept Black as his right-hand demon, or D-Man. We next see Black in Twisted Metal Black, where his story is limited to just loading screen dialogue and short cut scenes upon finishing the game. All Black tells us is that he was made to win Twisted Metal and was taught only 3 things: how to eat, to crap, and to kill. All 3 of those, in varying order, he plans to do to Calypso. It's not understood exactly why, but his ending shows Calypso being prepared for Black's arrival and leaves him a present that is meant to destroy Black, but fails. All we see is Black driving off, presumably to find and take out Calypso. It's revealed only in the playable version of the cancelled sequel to Twisted Metal Black that Black was sent by the Calypso of the colorful world to destroy the darker, more evil Calypso of the dark world, although it's unclear why. So Black's ending does have some significance, but the story is mostly implied. My theory is that the dark world Calypso of Twisted Metal Black, aided by the growing darkness of Sweet Tooth, who may or may not be Calypso himself, is becoming too powerful, and so Mr. Ash and colorful world Calypso have sent Black to destroy him. Great question, thank you. Next question is from Dragon My Balls 88. Is there any chance we'll get another game, hopefully a Twisted Metal Black 2? I hope so. The rumor is one is in development right now, to be released alongside the TV show. David Jaffe himself even seems confident that one is coming from Lucid Games under the codename Red Star, although not much is known about the rumored game. However, it's unlikely the new game would be a sequel to Black. Next question comes from Vex here. Is there a character that didn't get as much backstory as you would have liked? Oh man, there are so many, but I'll just pick one from each game. In Twisted Metal 1, I would say Mr. Ash for the reasons stated in the first question. Twisted Metal 2, I would say Axel, because having a fully fleshed out character and story for him would even make a wonderful film, let alone, a better Twisted Metal game. Twisted Metal 3, I guess, Lance Wilder, the driver of Spectre, could be fun. Twisted Metal 4, it's Rob Zombie all the way. What's he doing? And for Twisted Metal Black, I really would want to know more about Marcus Kane before he became Needles. Twisted Metal Small Brawl is Crimson Fury. That little James Bond dude is a lot of fun. Twisted Metal Head On, I'm all about knowing more about what the hell's going on with Krista Sparks' story. There's so much there, I don't know what's going on. So great question, thank you. Next is Deadline the Reaper asking, are there any canon winners in any of the games? There is not officially a canon winner. David Jaffe has said that his view is that each character's ending represents a parallel universe where that person won the contest. Despite that, it's widely accepted by the community that Outlaw is the canon winner of Twisted Metal 1, 2, and Head On, since they have the most continuity between games, where TM1 they are shot into space, and TM2 their sister goes and saves them from space, and then in Twisted Metal Head On they join the contest together to finally confront Calypso. Thank you. Thanks for the question. This one is from Lukey Moore 97. Hi bro, in addition to Manslaughter / Black Story, can you do a clarification on Warthog / Cage please? I really want some closure on his story. Sure, Cage in Twisted Metal Black is the driver of Warthog, a civilian station wagon plopped on top of a modern battle tank chassis. In the beta versions of the game, this vehicle was named White Knight and its driver Cage was called Marv. It's unclear why that was changed. In Cage's story, his whole motivation is that he wants to be an even more notorious and feared monster than Sweet Tooth, but has this problem where he feels remorse and sadness when he takes a life. His wish is to remove the part of the brain that causes that remorse and sadness. Upon winning the tournament, Calypso not only does what he asks, but also gives him a new pair of scissor hands as a bonus. After that, Cage sets out to become the greatest of all time. But by the events of Twisted Metal Lost, Cage has already had a run-in with Sweet Tooth that ended with his arms and legs lopped off, leaving Cage as just a head and torso. It's the interaction with Sweet Tooth that leads me to interpret Cage as Sweet Tooth's representation of his rivals and anyone who tries to compete in his realm of darkness. Where others have been augmented and changed to keep up, Sweet Tooth just is a remorseless, irreparable monster by nature. Thank you for the question. I hope that brings you some closure. Next is from Hearts for Her 555. Okay, not about Twisted Metal, but do you have kids or even old enough to have kids? No, I don't have any kids. Just 2 little dogs named Teddy and Lady. I'm 25 years old and I'm told that's old enough to have kids. Next is Adam Blow, who asks, what are your feelings on Loaded for the PS1? Is that something you would cover down the road? I don't have any feelings about it. Your question is the first time I'm hearing of that game existing at all, but I'm curious to look into it. Thank you for bringing that up. And finally, Etray26 asks, if you hit yourself and it hurts, does that mean you are strong or weak? Great question. All we can be sure of is that you are you, experiencing the universe with a finite ability to sense the world around you, but a limitless capacity for interpretation. So if you decide you are strong or you decide you are weak, that's entirely yours to choose. Is your glass half full or half empty? Did it hurt because you are too strong or too weak? It's in your court to choose. All all I can say is what a middle school bully might also say: stop hitting yourself. And I'll try to do one of these every once in a while, and I really appreciate the questions. So make sure to follow me for more Twisted Metal content like this. Hey, have you ever played a game that has mocked you for playing on easy mode? In modern gaming, there is usually a just playing for the story difficulty, which allows players to progress through the game with little to no challenge because the developers worked super hard and spent astronomical amounts of money on producing that story. They don't care if you're Joe Schmo or the sweatiest gamer lord that has ever sweated Gamerly. They don't care if you're a young Victorian boy who somehow time traveled to the present with no concept of a video game because your childhood was spent in a coal mine 150 years ago. The devs want you to be able to finish their game, even if it means spoon-feeding it to you. Back in the 90s, there was no hand-holding. If you wanted to beat a game and experience the story, your options were this: get good, get your older sibling, or cry. That's it. Twisted Metal 2 took this a step further with what happens when you reach the halfway point in the game. On the level Amazonia, once you defeat the normal volleys of opponents, you are greeted by Minion, who rises from the lava ready to do unspeakable acts of horror to you and your vehicle. On medium or hard difficulty, beating Minion in a 1v1 on Rust allows the players to advance to the second half of the game. But on easy mode, you are shown a news screen once Minion is destroyed. The news screen shows a stop sign with the message reading, quote, "No losers allowed beyond this point. You must switch to medium or hard to continue," before booting you back to the main menu. But don't feel bad if you aren't the most experienced or highest skilled player ever. Games should be enjoyed by everyone regardless of ability. They just weren't always that way. Did you game during the 90s and early 2000s? Then you are probably acutely aware that the most abundant resource on the planet is not water or air or rocks. It's soul-crushing frustration because every video game back then was so unreasonably hard, most likely to pad the length of games so people felt like they got their money's worth, but regardless, we kept playing even as our favorite games humiliated us. Maybe we kept playing because that's what made us strong. Maybe we kept playing because we needed something to talk about in a TikTok video 20 years later. Maybe we kept playing because that was the only thing getting us through our parents' divorce, or is that just me? Twisted Metal is far from an exception to this. With the Twisted Metal TV series on its way and a new game rumored to release alongside it, the interest around Twisted Metal hasn't been higher in over 10 years, which means hopefully a lot of new players will step into its world in the coming months and years. So while I can't make mom and dad want to be together again, I can absolutely help forge you and your weak floppy gaming skills into an unstoppable machine with no equal, or at least help you get through a playthrough of Twisted Metal on normal difficulty. The first thing to do is choose a character that suits your playstyle. Do you like fast, high damage, low armor characters? Then go with Mr. Grammar Spectre. Are you more into slow, rumbling behemoths with ridiculous armor? Darkseid and Warthog might be your thing. Want something in between? Try Shadow or Outlaw. There is a character for every playstyle, so experiment with different specials and the way they handle. Next, you want to learn the battlegrounds top to bottom. Explore each area so you know where the pickups are, where to run for cover when things get dicey, and where any secret areas or unlockables might be hiding. You get a huge edge towards victory when you just know where everything's at. Take special note of where the health pickups are, since as a new player, you're going to need as much of those as you can get. Once you have your character of choice and a decent familiarity of the levels, you should get acquainted with the different weapons of the game. Every vehicle has its own unique special, in addition to a wide variety of damage doers like homing missiles, which do little damage but have great tracking, fire missiles, which do slightly more damage in exchange for less tracking, power missiles, which do lots of damage with no homing ability whatsoever. There's also napalm, which lobs a ball of fire onto opponents, and ricochets, which can bounce off walls for some sick trick shot opportunities. Plus many more weapons to try out, so have at it. When you are nice and comfortable with your vehicle, the maps, and the tools of destruction at your disposal, it's time to learn the advanced attacks. These usually take the form of a short button combination you can press in order to launch a variety of energy-based moves, like a freeze missile, shield, and drop mine. Learning these and when to use them are a necessity for getting anywhere in Twisted Metal. The last basic tip I have is to get to know your opponents, understand what they can and can't do and what they like to do. It helps to know beforehand that Mr. Slam is utterly obsessed with comboing you into oblivion. It won't stop him, but at least you'll know what's coming. Anyways, thanks for sticking with me for something a little different here today. Make sure to like, follow, and comment any additional tips or tricks that I might have missed. Did you know that in Twisted Metal 2012, you can see trophies that Calypso has kept from all of his victors over the many years of the Twisted Metal tournament? Upon reaching the midway point of Grimm's story, you are greeted with a cutscene that begins with a slow pan across a display case in Calypso's office that is filled with trinkets and trophies from previous winners, such as Sweet Tooth's iconic machete, No Face's signature boxing glove, the mysterious serum given to Charlie Kane in Twisted Metal 1, Amanda Watt's racing helmet from Twisted Metal 2, the key to unlock Dollface's mask
Mask in Twisted Metal Black, the black box that multiple contestants were after in Twisted Metal 1, John Doe's FBI ID and badge from Twisted Metal Black, the teddy bear that haunts Agent Stone's dreams in Twisted Metal Black, Kratos' Blades of Chaos from God of War for some reason, the voodoo doll used by Raven in Twisted Metal Black, Crazy Harold the Wacky Lunch Shack from Twisted Metal 1, the bricks used to build Simon Whittlebone's tower in Twisted Metal 2, the 2 first-class plane tickets bought for the drivers of Hammerhead in Twisted Metal 2, and a copy of War of the Monsters.